Right now, right now. 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 Oh, I got a real good feeling.
We try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We got to add a little addendum to the show map today. So we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. Well, what's happening? It's been increasing over the last 50 years since the government has been getting bigger. Hey guys, what's going on? Jebb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto Live. This is your week daily morning show where we bring you the latest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, technical on-chain, and fundamental analysis. And we also talk about global markets, the macro environment. We talk about the rates. We talk about CPI. We talk about geopolitics. We talk about, today, a balloon over Montana. And no, this is not Balloon Boy, but we're going to be talking about maybe Balloon Boy Part 2 a little bit later. We've got some interesting developments on the geopolitical front of things that we'll be diving into later. But of course, the headline for today is that Bitcoin is just hundreds, maybe $1,000 from a huge breakout that could lead us all the way to $30,000 if we're able to get the market to do what we would like for it to do. We're going to be taking a very close look at Bitcoin today because there is quite a lot going on its chart that is going to help us to understand where the market may be going soon. I'm very excited to be joined by all of you guys today, so let's go ahead and read some green names. The person that managed to comment first was one of our longtime fans and viewers, Rockin' Metal News. What's up, man? Said, hi, Jebb. Hello. Jarat was also second, said hello. Mike Lowry in chat said, happy hashtag FinSov Friday. Let's see. What other green names do we have in chat today? We've got Matt C. and Mike Lowry moderating the chat. Thank you guys so very much for that. We've got Jeremy Shorter in chat said, yo, good morning at Crypto Jebb. Good morning, Jeremy Shorter, and welcome back to the stream. We've got Justin Eubanks in chat as well. I'm sorry, Justin Eubanks said, yo, good morning. Jeremy Shorter said, welcome back, Jebb. I missed you the last few days. What's up, my friend? Hello. We've also got the Classic IT guy in chat saying good morning. So good morning to everyone who has managed to tune in. I do apologize. I am getting a little bit of a cold. I'm hoping that the worst of it will happen over the weekend so it doesn't affect me here on stream. But Sarah and I both got sick, which was unfortunate because there's a lot going on right now trying to get ready for the baby because our son Malachi was born about 5.5 weeks from where we are right now in the pregnancy. So in theory, we could be just 5 or 6 weeks from giving birth if our daughter does not come early, which she still seems like she wants to. So we're going to see what happens. Just understand, hopefully, and I think you guys do, the next 3-4 months with bringing a new human being into the world might make things a little bit rocky. You'll probably see a lot more streams from home after our daughter is here. I can talk about the plan for that later, but I've also got some really cool ideas for content that I'd like to talk to you guys about a little bit later as well. We got Crypto Mini Bike in chat. What's going on, my friend? Welcome to the stream. Let's go ahead and jump onto CoinMarketCap because there is a very important situation developing over here. And that is, as you can see, Bitcoin is trading at $23,482. It's actually corrected a little bit over the last 24 hours. It's down 0.82%. Ethereum is down 0.37%. Both of these markets being down is substantial because it shows us that the market is still consolidating from that attempted breakout and the breakout that it did make yesterday. As you can see, at 1900 hours, about 7 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday, February the 1st of 2023, Bitcoin broke up to new fresh highs at $24,284. From there, Bitcoin had been trading sideways yesterday and still continues to trade sideways today at a slightly lower level, but it does seem to be managing to maintain and hold most of that price appreciation. The market started its rally right down here and rallied $1,500. It started down here at 22.7. Right now, even on the most extreme pullback, we've still only pulled back down to 23.2. So while we are down a little bit over the last 24 hours, that's not exactly a bad thing because that does allow the market time to reset and to and prepare for the next phase of movement to the upside, while also allowing for some of the bulls that were making money and were in profit to take that profit, however, not causing the market to just completely flash crash through the floor, causing it to go into a big correction. Essentially, what we're seeing is healthy consolidation following that rally, and at the moment anyway, we're still managing to maintain higher lows, and even if we were to drop down to, let's say, about $22,900 to $23,000, somewhere along maybe this line or in this little triangle right here, that would be just fine as well. So I'm pretty excited about where Bitcoin is. It's sitting at $450 billion. And by the way, I just want to remind you guys, let's just back up for a second. Let's talk about some of the use case for cryptocurrency, because many of you guys might be wondering, well, Jebb, why in the world would you see why in the world would Bitcoin be worth $450 billion? Why in the world would Ethereum be worth 200 and some billion dollars? Why is crypto worth $1 trillion in the middle of a bear market? Let's just talk about some of the applications. Number one, whenever you are building a business or a solution to a problem, if you're building a business, you're building a solution to a problem, you need a big problem if you want to build a big business, and you need a big business to solve a big problem. Same thing with crypto. If you've got a big problem, you need a big cryptocurrency to solve it. If you've got a big cryptocurrency, then you dang well better ought to have a big problem that warrants the size of the market capitalization of that coin. Why is Bitcoin worth $450 billion? Well, we got to go back to what the problem is. What's the problem? The problem is people are losing their value to inflation year over year in every single nation on planet Earth, with every single other currency in the world besides Bitcoin. They are losing value every single year, with the notable exception of maybe real estate, if you're able to get into a really good investment where the property taxes aren't so high and where the demographical crisis that we're going to run into in the next 30 years won't actually cause you to lose money in real estate over the next 30 years. Whereas the last 30 years, they may have been profitable. The next 30 years, you're seeing general population decline and the gutting of the 20-something and 30-somethings that would normally be buying homes. Your real estate investment might not be as profitable in the next 30 years as it was in the last 30 years. You need somewhere to park your money that you are able to fend off inflation, and Bitcoin is hands down, by far, no question about it, absolutely the greatest solution to that problem that humanity has ever conceived. That's why it's worth, still, in a bear market, $450 billion, and why one day it'll be worth $4.5 trillion. You think I'm crazy? Fast forward 8 years. What does the world look like? You see the hyperinflation of many different currencies that are staples right now. The renminbi, the Russian ruble. You're looking at probably the US dollar having lost 40 or 50% of its value just from a CPI standpoint by the end of the decade. If we're not calling that hyperinflation because hyperinflation's over 10x in a year or whatever, fine, but that amount of inflation guts the wealth of a nation. Bitcoin is the solution to that problem. Let's talk about Ethereum. Let's talk about the other altcoins. Let's just talk about some of the big applications. How about let's just start with one of the biggest sectors that was hugely disrupted over the last 3 years, supply chain logistics. Do you have any idea how complicated it is to maintain a supply chain where you have 1 trillion different components on 4 different continents, and they're moving around on 17 different cargo ships, 14 different aircrafts, and 17 different trains across 100,000 different intermodal shipping containers? Try tracking all of that. Good luck. There are systems for that right now, and they are extremely cumbersome. The blockchain gives you the ability to build those systems much easier. Now, that has not been commercially implemented yet, but where there is a capitalistic ability to make a lot of money, eventually a capitalist is going to come along and use the technology and pair it with business, and they're going to create innovation, and you're going to see revolution. And that's what's going to happen with the blockchain. Same thing with the medical system. How many people are in the medical system for the sake of just interfacing with insurance, for just interfacing with medical records, for just interfacing with scheduling? All of that could be automated and secured in the way where you don't need stacks and stacks of paper and hundreds of terabytes of data storage. You could do all of that on the blockchain, and you would eliminate a huge amount of waste, and you would grow the economy. And all of that valuation would go where? Straight into the cryptocurrency's market capitalization that is being used to do that. That's technological innovation, and Bitcoin is going to be at the forefront of how we do technological innovation over the next 10 years, especially considering the multitude of changes that are coming to the global world order with the shifts in demographics, the shifts in the median age of different populations, with the breakdown of globalization and supply chain, and with the reinvention of many of our systems to be more nationalized rather than internationalized with, again, as I said, the breakdown of global relations around the world. We're going to talk about one of the things that's definitely not helping with that today. So if you're wondering why Bitcoin is worth $450 billion, why is Ethereum worth $200 billion? I'll tell you, because the problem that they were built to solve is that big or bigger. And they haven't even come close to fully solving those problems yet, but they will. I have a lot of confidence in that. I'm not going to be one of the people that's going to sit here and tell you that I think Bitcoin is going to replace the US dollar as the world reserve currency. I think that, frankly, that is highly unlikely, and I'll be very specific with why, because I know people are going to grab their pitchforks when I say that. To be the world reserve currency, you need at least $100 trillion worth of liquidity so you can fully lubricate the entire global market, because when you're the world reserve currency, there's $100 trillion a year worth of trade going on. And there are some degrees of monetary control that, generally speaking, the world is used to. I'm not saying that it necessarily should or has to work that way, but the world is used to working in a currency as the world reserve currency that has some kind of power behind it, has some kind of force projection behind it, so that they can be confident that it will stay the world reserve currency. People use the world reserve currency right now, the US dollar, because the United States is a quarter of the global economy, because the United States has the world's largest Navy, Air Force, has the world's largest military in general, has the most powerful economy, has the most influential relationship with the rest of the world combined. The two largest air forces in the United States are the United States Air Force and the United States Navy's Air Force. That's the kind of military that they're talking about. Bitcoin doesn't exactly have that backing it up. It's more of a laissez-faire, kind of like, hey, bro, come do whatever you want, free love, that it's kind of the more hippie of the world reserve currency candidates, and it probably would never get to world reserve currency status. That being said, it certainly could end up making up 5, 10, 15% of global trade. It certainly could end up being the place where people are investing their wealth rather than real estate, pensions, bonds, the stock market, because they're trying to hold on to wealth in a evaporating wealth market where liquidity is being transferred from the people that have the money back to the governments through the process of inflation, which is silent taxation. And so they will be able to save their money and store it into the future in Bitcoin. And especially in the world we're going in the next 30 years, Bitcoin is going to be a very important solution to that problem. It's going to be worth a lot more than it is today. That's why I'm invested in it. So, a little bit of a tangent. I realize that's not exactly the point of today's video, today's stream, but it can be easy to wonder, well, is Bitcoin ever going to go back to all-time high? Maybe it was never meant to be at $69,000. Maybe it never should have been there. Well, as far as the way it went there with hype, yeah, we probably shouldn't have gone to $69,000 on just a bunch of hype where people joined the space and they did not understand the actual value proposition of it compared to the world that we're moving into. In fact, just tell me what you think in the comments. I've been thinking about starting to write a book at some point this year about and this is why I've been studying geopolitics so much and the world so much over the last 3 months. I've been thinking about writing a book in the relation of how Bitcoin is growing as an industry in relation to the direction the world is going as an ecosystem that Bitcoin will exist in. If you'd be interested in reading a book like that, let me know. I've never written a book before. I've always dreamed of being an author, and I think that would be something that the world would really need, because I think a lot of people are thinking that Bitcoin has value simply because of its hype. That is not where Bitcoin's true value comes from. Bitcoin's true value comes from the simple fact that we have a $100 billion problem called everybody is losing their money every single year to inflation, and they can't do anything about it. Bitcoin's their only avenue. It's that simple. There's a lot more that goes into it, but that's the core of it. Tell me if you'd be interested in reading a book like that. I think that'd be a very interesting endeavor. Anyway, I'm going to read chat here for just a second, and then we're going to jump right back on into the stream. Let's see. Am I missing any green names? JoJo's in chat. Freedom Advocate is in chat. Let's read a little bit of chat. Jay Powell mentioned Bedrock yesterday. Did you hear him, Pastor Jebb? I didn't hear that. Wonderful. Heck yeah. Awesome. How do you know all this stuff? I feel dumb. You're not dumb. You're not dumb. Did either one of us come out of the womb knowing anything? Nope. We came out of the womb knowing how to cry and how to move our arm. Barely. We have to learn these things. You're not dumb. Dumb is someone who's dumb, and I don't call people dumb because I think it's kind of a mean term, but somebody who is of low intelligence, that means it's hard for them to learn something, and that's not something to attack somebody for. God gifts us all in different ways, because a lot of people that might not have the highest IQ have a much higher EQ, and they're very much able to be in tune with people emotionally. But as far as feeling dumb, you might feel like there's a lot to learn, but that doesn't mean you're dumb. That is more in the direction of just, hey, there's a lot to learn. Let's see. Brap, brap. All right. Crypto Jebb, go for it. Dude, I would so read it. Looks like you guys would love to read it. I would read it when people said, yeah, I would definitely pirate that book. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, at least you'd be reading it. I wouldn't really be writing it for the sake of making money. So that, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and endorse piracy because it is theft, but I don't really care too much about the money. I just want to get the message out there. Spoken like a guy who doesn't have a background in finance. I mean, it's true, I don't, but I think that's actually one of the benefits that I bring to the table, because the fact is, if you have a background in finance, you're going to be conditioned to believe that that's the only way of doing finance, and that's not the only way of doing finance. All right. All right. Let us see here. Okay. There are certain things you just can't put on the blockchain, like medical records. Why is that? Why do you think medical records can't be on the blockchain? I would love to know why you think that. How's your guitar learning? I haven't actually been able to play very much because, we're just getting ready for a baby. More important. I would love to be able to practice that, but there's other things that are more pressing right now. All right, we're going to jump into some technical analysis because there are a few things going on our charts that are extremely important and extremely insightful. So let's go ahead and take a look at them. Bitcoin right now is trading at $23,635. This is a very exciting period for the market to be in because of a multitude of different factors. Let's first start at the total market capitalization. Let's just remember that the level we were talking about being necessary to break was $1,021 billion. Right now, Bitcoin, after consolidating, dropped down to exactly $1,021 billion. This is what I told you would happen yesterday. We would likely come back and backtest this and bounce and rally. Or that was a possibility. I don't know if I actually said it would happen, but it was a very high possibility and likelihood that that's what we would do, and we would hopefully hold there. Right now, total market capitalization is sitting at $1,038 billion, which tells us that we have concretely broken the pre-FTX highs, and we've reestablished that as support. That is extremely important and impactful. You might think, okay, Bitcoin rallied and fell back down, and then whoop-de-doo, it dropped. So what? Here's the reason that this is important. Bitcoin pulling back down to $1,021 billion means that this former level of resistance has now been turned into a current level of support. That is how you define an uptrend. That's how you define a breakout. And that's what we've just done. We have concretely and officially broken out above $1,021 billion. The breakout doesn't always necessarily get confirmed the second you break above that level. Because like right here, if you break above the level and then fall right back below it, did you really break above it? Not really. You actually just penetrated into it a little bit and then you came right back out. What we want to see happen is breaking above and then back testing that same level or something above that level as support, and then that's where you can say, yes, we've concretely broken it. Now, where we're sitting right now, $1,040 billion is also this same local level right here. I'd like to see us break above this level, and I'll just go ahead and draw these lines. I'd like to see us break above this level right here, which is at $1,045 billion, which we did narrowly break above yesterday. But now I'd like to see the market go up here, break above that, and test that, back test that at $1,045 billion, and then continue rallying. If we're able to do that, the next stop would be right up here at $1,172 billion. That's a little bit further away, but definitely feasible, considering Ethereum right now is attempting to break its downtrending level of resistance. In fact, it kind of already has. You can see that downtrending level of resistance sits right here. We've pretty much already broken this level. Depending on how you draw it, you could draw it like this and say we haven't broken it. But either way, the market is very much attempting to break above that downtrending level. And also, Bitcoin is still sitting very, very highly up here, bottoming out at 2320. 23,200, and now it's sitting at 23,700. Now, there's a couple of other factors here that I've spoken on at length that I want to bring to your attention as well. And one of those is that the SPY, the SPDR S&P 500 ETF Trust, also known as the SPY, has broken above critical resistance and is sitting at $415. That is exceptionally important, and it's exceptionally important for a couple of reasons. And one of them does have to do with the war. The first reason is very obvious from the chart. We've broken this downtrending level of resistance. That's sent the stock market into a roar. You're seeing the bulls just go nuts right now. That's been the downtrending level of resistance everybody's been talking about for a year, ever since March of last year. The end of March, when we actually established that downtrend. Everybody's been raving about that. Now, the next thing to keep in mind is this level right here. You can see this has actually been on my chart for about 6 months. I'm literally just extending it out, and you can see right here at 418 is the exact same level that we are testing right now. And so what I want to show you here is that something very interesting is about to happen. We're about to cross through February the 24th, and we're probably going to be at the exact same level as the market was last February 24th, which was the day that Russia declared the war on Ukraine, or their special military operation. Anyway, that is very significant, because if the S&P 500 does somehow manage to sit at the exact same level or the exact same area where it was when that conflict began, but this time we're actually moving to the upside rather than previously we were moving to the downside, that actually indicates, just from a technical analysis, maybe not geopolitical and macro standpoint, but from a technical analysis standpoint, that the market will have some momentum and try and break through that level at 418. If we are able to break through the level at 418, and if we are then able to rally up and break through the level at 431, that's wonderful, because that means the market has started to recover in a way that the United States stock market has basically managed to reverse the downtrend that it had been in as a result of that conflict, as a result of the hiking rate markets, and start to continue on its uptrend. Now, there's a few things that are holding that back. Number one, the Fed is not just going to drop interest rates next time they have a meeting on March 22nd. If anything, they're probably going to raise them again, another 25 basis points up to 50 basis points. That being said, they're also probably going to leave the rates up there for 6 to 12 months at least before they drop them and use them as economic stimulus. So don't expect the Fed to just drop rates exceptionally fast anytime soon to cause the stock market to go into a new all-time high territory, above 500 on the SPY. You're very much unlikely to see that. What, however, is likely is that the market is starting to adjust to this heightened rate market. The market is starting to get used to the idea that, okay, we're not going to be able to get loans on 3% interest. We're going to have to get loans on 10% interest. And so that's, hopefully anyway, driving better business practices where people are not trying to go out and take out a bunch of money in the form of loans, but instead they're trying to bootstrap things, which is the proper way to do things. The problem is that we don't necessarily see that's the way business works. Normally, people are going to take out debt if they're even able to qualify for it, and then they'll figure out how to pay it back later. So there's a big problem right now that people are not necessarily learning the lesson they should be learning from this heightened rate market. Instead, they're just setting themselves up so that to do the exact same thing they did before, but when the rates go down, they're just going to end up profiting a lot for it because they're able to get even cheaper debt. I'm not sure if that makes any sense. They're just raising the floor on their strategy rather than changing the strategy fundamentally. But again, the exciting thing is that the market, at least the S&P 500, seems to be adjusting to this heightened rate market. And of course, much of the turmoil, the turmoil and tumult that the global markets have experienced over the last year is starting to calm down, at least stateside, not so much abroad, but at least stateside, we're starting to learn how to do more things at home. The United States the United States industrial plant is growing rapidly as China is losing some market share of their manufacturing, as the United States suspects that a conflict over Taiwan could be coming relatively soon. China invades Taiwan. The United States is basically guaranteed, so is Japan, basically guaranteed to defend Taiwan. That would be the largest conflict since the Second World War and the war in the Pacific. That would likely involve the U.S. Navy in a way that has not been, the U.S. Navy has not fought on the high seas since 1945. When the United States Navy and the Marines were island hopping trying to get to mainland Japan. So that would be a huge shakeup. And so the United States is anticipating that, and we're bringing a lot of manufacturing back to the United States. Under Donald Trump, most of America ended up saying, China. They didn't want anything to do with China because they realized the rising threat of China. Trump, like him, hate him, I'm not commenting on that. He brought to the American people's attention that China was a real threat. A lot of people thought that policy was crazy. Biden came in. Biden obviously hated Trump, and then Biden came in and then doubled and tripled down, quadrupled down on many of Trump's nationalistic, not nationalistic, but how would you say, American-focused policies of pushing China to the side and saying, look, you're a threat to national security. We don't want to be doing as much trading with you because we want to bring it back on our own shore, because the United States realized that they're going to probably end up, if Xi Jinping is crazy enough, because he'll fail, but if he's crazy enough, making a move on Taiwan. So the United States is trying to prepare for that. So as we prepared for that, as we prepared and recovered from the conflict in Russia and Ukraine, the conflict in Ukraine from Russia, we've started to bring back a lot of that stability into our own territory, which is a good thing. That sets us up for another 30 years of economic prosperity where the manufacturing plant is coming back to the United States. That's a great story for blue-collar workers in the United States. For globalization and much of the rest of the world, that's not too helpful for them because globalization benefits everybody more than it benefits the United States. But for the U.S. and the U.S. stock market, that probably will have a bullish impact. So anyway, the reason I bring up the S&P 500 is because it has a very positive correlation with Bitcoin. And I'll show you here. The SPY, whenever it's rallying, so does Bitcoin. Just if you're not convinced of that, let me just show you the monthly chart here. I'll just go ahead and hide everything except for the S&P 500. Just take a look here at what happened when the S&P 500 topped out. It peaked out 1 month after Bitcoin peaked out. When it was going into a bear market, so too was Bitcoin. When it has been rallying, ever since then, Bitcoin has been trying to rally. Ever since the S&P 500 bottomed out in September of 2022, Bitcoin tried to rally in October, then FTX collapsed and brought the market down for 2 months. But you can see we're trying to catch back up with what the S&P 500 was doing. If we were trying to maintain where the S&P 500 is, we dropped a little bit later and we're rallying a little bit later, but we're trying to catch up with where it is proportionally. You look back to the pandemic drop. Obviously, both of those were in tandem. You look back to the drop at the end of 2018, early 2019. Same thing. You saw a major drop on the S&P 500. On Bitcoin, we dropped 50% or so. Over here on the S&P 500, we dropped about 15%. But the point is, Bitcoin and the S&P have been extremely correlated for a very long time. Even this drop right over here, we saw that the S&P 500 was going through a topping out, a plateau, and then even a correction towards the end of 2015 when Bitcoin was going through its correction, even going all the way back to the inception of Bitcoin, where technical analysis kind of breaks down because the market wasn't driven so much by technical analysis and correlation. You happen to see back here in 2011 moving into the end of 2011, when the market went through a big correction, the S&P was too. These two markets have always been heavily correlated. And so it makes sense, it's logical to expect that when Bitcoin is going through a rally, the S&P 500 is probably one of the driving factors of that. Now, the same thing happens if we look at the Dixie. And I've shown you this before, but I want to show you again just so you have the historical context. I haven't shown all the historical context. If you show Bitcoin here, the S&P 5, the Dixie, that's the dollar currency index. Whenever it's very high, Bitcoin typically is very low. You can see in these periods right here, it rallied sharply. This is the strength of the dollar compared to a basket of other world currencies. It rallied sharply, 20 to 30%, in the exact same time Bitcoin was going through the worst of its bear market. Why? Well, it stands to reason that if Bitcoin is trying to solve one of the problems that the United States and the U.S. monetary system has brought about humanity, then Bitcoin is not going to do very well when that system is doing well, because Bitcoin is a direct and open competitor to the dollar. We know that. It's not a competitor in every single facet. It's probably not going to be used for every single transaction that happens in the world, but for certain kinds of transactions, like very large transactions, international transactions, transactions that otherwise would take a month because of the banking system, Bitcoin is going to thrive. So when the Dixie has been up historically, Bitcoin has been down. The Dixie was up, Bitcoin's down. These two bull markets, look, they correlate with the Dixie being very far to the downside. Dixie rallied exceptionally sharply, by the way, at the exact same time that the S&P 500 was dropping. That caused Bitcoin to go down. Well, the last 2 months, something has shifted. The Dixie has started coming down, and the S&P 500 has started going up. Look at this. At the same time the Dixie came down, the S&P 500 came up. At the same time, FTX collapsed. That put us behind a little bit. But these two correlations have caused Bitcoin to go through a major rally, and they're going to continue to do so as the Dixie seemingly continues to drop. As other world currencies are raising rates faster, the U.S. is lowering the appreciation of their rates, that being the increase of their rates. And so Bitcoin is going to do exceptionally well. So what's the point here? The point here is that Bitcoin is set up based on precedent of many different factors very, very well to go into a major bull market. You can look at something like the Dow Jones Industrial Average. The Dow Jones Industrial Average has managed to even break above a lot of its critical levels. If you remember, we drew this market, these lines right here a long time ago. Bitcoin has broken clear through them, or the DJIA has broken clear through them and is even trying to test levels of resistance at 34,000 points right now. If it's able to break through there, then great. That's another example of what I'm talking about. Bitcoin is set up very, very well right now from a macro standpoint to go through a colossal breakout to the upside. All right, let's read chat here for a second, and then we'll jump into some technical analysis, and then we'll jump into some other macro factors, because there's a piece of news that you might be interested in talking about a balloon over a Montana nuclear missile Air Force base. I think you'll be interested in this one. Okay. Let's see. What's going on in chat? Forest Hills Audio in chat said, hashtag CryptoJebb. What's up, my friend? Let's see. Let's see. Just found out that 3 states cannot use Get Hedge: South Dakota, Texas, and New York. Dang it. Yeah, there are some strange stateside regulations like that. By the way, guys, we've got almost 500 people in chat. So if you're enjoying today's stream, let's go ahead and hit that like button. Let's go ahead and pump the likes up to 300 here. I'll do it with you. I'll even like the video myself. Is that weird? Probably. I never do that, but there we go. I've done it twice in the last, 3 months. HIPAA violations, HIPAA would be upset. Not if the blockchain that's doing it was built correctly. HIPAA might be upset, but at the end of the day, if you have a superior technology, then the government's job is to mold itself around that technology for the betterment of the people. Now, they might not do that, but a lot of times that is what ends up happening in the United States because there's such a popular demand for it. And if you guys don't know what HIPAA is, that the Healthcare Information Patient Privacy Act, I think is what it stands for. Essentially, that's where you can't share medical records with anybody other than the people that the patient allows you to. It's a privacy thing, and as far as I don't know too much about it, but the idea of medical records being private, that's a wonderful thing. Everybody's talking about Trump in chat now. That's funny. All right. Hashtag FinSov. Absolutely. Let's see. What else do we have here in chat? Your medical records, payments, insurance will all be handled by the CBDC. I don't know about that. The government isn't too interested in building that because that's more of a capitalistic endeavor. Our government is more interested in building government bureaucracy, and that's probably, hopefully, not something that there is going to be a lot of right now. Let's see. Do we have anything else that I want to bring to the chat's attention, the stream's attention? Crypto Trucker Mike said, "Hi, Jebb. Hope all is well, brother." Thank you. All is pretty well. We're doing pretty well. Just got a lot of health things to take care of with our daughter, as far as because she could be here any day now, but we're hoping that she will come at the right time. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about Bitcoin, and then we're going to talk about Winnie the Pooh in a balloon. We'll talk about what that means here in a little bit. Some of you might know where I'm going with that if you can read the headlines up here. Anyway, so let's look at Bitcoin through the lens of Lux Algo price action concepts today, because we normally look at it through the lens of Lux Algo premium. Let's look at it through the lens of Lux Algo price action concepts. This is another part of Lux Algo that you get with Lux Algo. It's a wonderful technical indicator, and I'm really excited about it. One of the things I'm also really excited about is that relatively soon we're probably going to see the equilibrium here on Lux Algo price action concepts jump up to right here, because we've been up here for so long. We're likely going to end up seeing the equilibrium rally up here. We're sitting right below the premium, which we're 92% likely to hit, 8% likely to go to the discount. We've also got an order block right here of support, and then an order block right here of resistance. I'm thinking that Bitcoin, based on what I'm seeing here, is doing pretty well, and that the equilibrium is going to jump up here. Let's look down here on the hourly chart. There's probably going to be a few more things to dive into here on the hourly chart. Looking on the hourly chart with Lux Algo, if we go ahead and let it load, you can see equilibrium is right here. We've got a 66% likelihood of going to the premium, 34% likelihood of going to the discount. We've also got an order block right here as resistance, but it's relatively weak. We've got a pretty strong order block right there and right there as support, so that is wonderful. Another thing to keep in mind is that we had 3 breakup structures in a row. You can see the BOS, that stands for breakup structure, came into play. We had 3 of them happen simultaneously, or not simultaneously, but in a row. We even saw a 4th back here. That's a very encouraging thing, because that tells us that the market is consistently setting higher highs, and then the market is in an uptrending movement. And of course, guys, that is what we want to see. So let's go ahead and also, okay, let me just show you how you turn this on, by the way, because some of you might not be familiar with Lux Algo price action concepts. Go into your indicators, go into invite only scripts, and it's going to be right there. right there. Lux Algo price action concepts. Then you've also got signals and overlay. That's the premium, but that's the one we're talking about right now. And then you've also got the backtesting system, which I don't think is publicly available anymore, but this thing is really, really cool. I can just show you that really quickly. It's kind of a big system, so I don't know if this is a good time to do it, but yeah, you know what? We'll probably not show that right now just because it's very complicated. But anyway, what I wanted to show you is that in here, if you're trying to get the premium and discount zones, you can go ahead and hit this button right down there. All right, but looking at the other facets of Lux Algo, you can see here on the hourly chart, we are currently still in a confirmed buy signal. All three of these signals were not confirmed because Trendcatcher did not confirm them, so we can safely ignore all of these and then act as if we're still under the buy signal because we are. You can also see here on the hourly chart, I believe we talked about the hourly chart EQ cloud yesterday. We dropped down to the bottom of the EQ cloud and we bounced bullish out of it. That's wonderful. I want to see Bitcoin get out of the EQ cloud and have some kind of exuberance so that we're not just sitting down there in the EQ cloud. That's not generally a good thing for an uptrend. Looking at the 4-hourly chart here, you can see we dropped a wick right down into the EQ cloud, but we've still managed to stay above it. That is encouraging. We didn't drop down into it as much as we did back here, and the reversal zones are constricting on themselves very aggressively, which is indicating that this market is losing a lot of its volatility. But when the market loses much of its volatility, oftentimes it's going to constrict, it's going to trade sideways, it's going to build VRVP support, and then it's going to prepare itself for another breakout to the upside. So just keep that in mind, that lower volatility is not necessarily a bad thing because it could be signaling increased volatility in the near future. Looking on the daily chart, the reversal zone is still moonshotting. It's just moving to the upside so quickly. The bottom reversal zones are moving to the upside so quickly. This is wonderful because with the reversal zone moving up here, with the EQ cloud moving up here, with everything moving up here, we're reestablishing every day that passes that we're up here at 24,000. We're making it less and less likely that we're ever going to $16,000 ever again. It would be very difficult now to go into such a strong downtrend that we would penetrate straight through the reversal zone down here to 13,700, which is what we were concerned about there for a while. We could drop down into the EQ cloud, which could be anywhere in here. In fact, let's draw that a little bit more accurately, probably something like this. We could drop down into the EQ cloud somewhere in this territory, but even if we did, $18,500 is still $3,000 higher than the bottoms that we set at 15.5 back in the second half of November. That is a wonderful thing. If Bitcoin were to drop $5,000 from where it is now, I'm talking $5,000 from where it is now to 18.5, we would still be $3,000 higher than where the local bottom is. That's a very encouraging place for Bitcoin to be. So whether or not Bitcoin breaks to 25K right now or not, it is set up in a wonderful position on the daily. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look then at basically the point of the title of this stream, talking about $25,000. Right now, Bitcoin is attempting to break bullish above resistance at, let's just go ahead and call it $24,000. We're trying to break above 24K. The tricky thing is that if we break above 24K, we've also got $25,000 right above us, but there's not much between those two levels. If Bitcoin is able to concretely break above 24,000, you probably are going straight to 25K. And the reason I say that is because if you break above 24K and you stay up there on candle bodies on the 4-hourly chart at least, if not on the daily chart, then that's going to send total market capitalization above $1,051 billion, which, if you will remember, is, $1,040,000,000. Where am I looking at here? $1,041 billion. It's going to concretely send us above that, causing that to be used as support. That will also drag Ethereum up here above $1,700, causing a major breakout. Then Bitcoin will end up rallying to 25K easily and potentially breaking it. So here's what I'm saying. If Bitcoin rallies another $500-$600 and it's up at 24.2, 24.3, and it sits up there for a while, that's going to drag total market capitalization above a critical resistance level. That's going to drag Ethereum above a critical resistance level. Both of those markets will then more than likely go into rallies, which will then drag Bitcoin into a rally, and you could concretely break 25K and then end up turning that into support. It is very possible then, if we're able to rally $600 to $700, $400 to $700, somewhere in there, and stay above that area for some time, that we could end up rallying above 25.2, which is our local resistance level back here on the 14th of August, back testing it as support, and then moving into bull market territory. That's how close we are right now. And there's even an event that could make it possible and likely. And it's not Lux Algo, although Lux Algo has definitely helped us a lot in this case. And you should definitely get Lux Algo to make sure you're keeping a very close eye on it. But the thing that could drive us up there is none other than this. The consumer price index. As you guys know, the consumer price index for Bitcoin is a remarkably important metric. It has been continuing to move to the downside. It has been continuing to move to the downside from its local highs, around 10%, around 9.5%. It dropped 0.6% last month, around middle part of January. We saw it drop around 0.6% from 7.1 down to 6.5. Right now, it's sitting at 6.5 on February the 14th, which is Valentine's Day. Lovely day. At 8:30 a.m., I believe that's a Wednesday. Let me just go ahead and check the date there. It's Tuesday, actually. On that date, we will likely be seeing CPI come down by at least 0.3%, probably closer to 0.4%. So that is going to end up giving a lot of exuberance to Bitcoin, because let me just show you the last time that we saw a bullish CPI print come in. Oh yeah, it was right here. It was right there. Bitcoin exploded on that bullish CPI print. If we manage to stay up here, and now it's just a waiting game of being patient and trying to hold above 23K. If we manage to stay up here above about 22.5, at least above the local highs pre-FTX at 21.5. If we are able to stay up here, and then this CPI data comes in and it's sub 6%, I like it, especially if it drops another 0.6%, which is unlikely but possible, considering energy services, which is electricity and natural gas piped, is likely to come down a little bit, and also considering, how do I go back here? Especially considering energy commodities is likely to go negative because fuel oil is probably going to drop by 20%. Gasoline is probably going to go up a little bit. If you've noticed, gas has gone up a little bit, but fuel oil is probably going to come down a little bit. If that occurs, then you're going to end up seeing CPI on the energy side of things dropping substantially, and that could cause all items to go down a little bit. Now, one of the problems is that food has been getting more expensive the last month. In this last month, if you notice, the price of eggs have looked more like the price of gold than the price of something that came out of the bottom of a piece of poultry. But the fact of the matter is, when that price goes up, then you are seeing that food CPI go up, and you're going to have a hard time getting inflation to go down if the food category is going up. So just keep in mind that dropping 0.6% next month or this month is going to be difficult, but I do think you'll see a little bit of a drop as the market continues to stabilize. There's a publication right here that's pretty interesting. Then 20 ounces, now 16 ounces. That's kind of what you're seeing. Products are getting smaller. I was talking to my wife yesterday about those little 7.5 ounce Sprite cans. Have you seen those? They're called Sprite Mini, or they're Coke Mini. They came out with the little mini things. I told Sarah, I'm like, we love those things because we don't drink much soda at all, so we want just a tiny little bit of soda if we're going to drink soda. So it's great for us, but the majority of Americans, they want at least a 12 ounce can, if not like a 40 of Sprite or something. The only reason that those little tiny products exist now is because inflation has put the market into a place where the demand for that kind of product is high enough that it warrants the research and development, not so much the research and development cost, but the retooling of factories to create that product. Why does that happen? Because of inflation. Because people want to buy a 10-pack of Sprite Mini for the same price that they bought a 12-pack of 12-ounce Sprite cans 3 years ago. I love the little mini cans. I love them. I think they're great because I don't want to drink 12 ounces of a soda because I don't drink much soda. 7.5 ounces is great for me, but most Americans want a full 12 ounce. It's just the way the American market is. So the fact that that product exists now is simply because of inflation, because it's certainly not there because people want that. They want 12 ounce cans. They just can't afford it anymore. They want to be able to have a little, like I was holding this Sprite can. I felt like I was Shaq holding a Sprite can. Have you ever seen a picture of Shaq holding a Sprite can? He's got like this tiny little can. He's got a huge hand because the dude's like 17 feet tall. I was holding that. I'm like, man, I feel like Shaq right now. I bet if my hand's this big compared to this Sprite can, I think I could go and dunk. I can't. But that's kind of what it felt like. And that's the impact of inflation on the market as you cause the miniaturization of products. So what does all that mean? With inflation coming in, and it's probably going to be a little bit lower, probably not 0.6% lower, then we're likely going to end up seeing Bitcoin jump on that news, even if we haven't seen a 0.6% drop. Even if we've only seen a 0.3% drop, Bitcoin is likely going to jump on that news. So that's pretty exciting. 18 count of eggs paid $8. Whew. Woo-hoo-hoo. No bueno. We know some people, we know some people that have chickens, and they were getting 18 eggs for $2 and, what was it, Sarah? $2? Was it $2 or $3 for 18 eggs? You remember that? It was $2? It was $3 for a dozen? Oh, man, we had to pay $4 for, I know it was $3 for 18 eggs, wasn't it? Oh, man. It makes sense, though, because the reason that the egg prices are so high is because there's an H5N1 outbreak, and they've had to cull about 100 million chickens. So when you kill all your chickens, then you no longer have enough chickens to make eggs, and supply and demand works. So let's try that again. I'm not 13 anymore. Supply and demand works, so you end up having to raise the price of everything to end up covering your cost basis. Anyway, so the point is, Bitcoin being under the influence of CPI is likely going to have a major breakout above 24K after CPI numbers come in, even though that CPI drop is almost certainly not going to be 0.6% as we would like. All right, I'm going to read chat for a little bit, and then we've got a little bit of macro to jump into. Really appreciate all of you guys tuning in. Jebb, does the government borrowing money go up as well when rates are hiked? The government doesn't so much. So that's a complicated question, and that is a field of study that I'm still working on trying to grow an expertise in, so I don't want to sit here and act like I know exactly the answer to that question. What I will say is that oftentimes when the government is needing new money, they will, in a way, borrow it from the Fed, but a lot of times they'll just straight up create it out of thin air. They will, that interest rate does have an impact on the debt that the government owes itself, because we owe $32 trillion or whatever, like 14, 15 trillion of that is owed to ourselves in the form of owing the Federal Reserve money. I'm not exactly sure, though. That's a question I'd have to look into. I think it would, but I couldn't tell you for sure. Let's take a look on that. Jebb had to take a leave to deal with personal issues. The guys ran the show and take over and want to take ownership over Jebb. Jebb said no, ta-da. Yeah, that's kind of how it went. I was told give over majority ownership of the company or we all walk, and so I kept the majority ownership of my own company that I founded and created and ran and grew. So we'll just leave that at that for right now. Anyway, let's see. Congratulations to Ukraine for a well-organized retreat. Oh, wonderful. I didn't know that there was something going on there. I hope everything's going well there. All right. Dude is smart. He knows a lot. Thank you. I don't know if that's talking about me, but whoever you're talking about, I really appreciate that. Also love mini cans. Yeah, I actually like them. I think they're great products. It's just that wouldn't have existed without inflation. Press O'Neill said, do you prefer Lux Algo or Market Cipher at Crypto Jebb? Is one better for one time frame compared to another time frame? I think they're both good products. And I actually personally know the creators of both of them. I met both of them in person and, shaking hands with both of them. I think that Lux Algo is my preferred technical indicator, but I also think that CryptoFace has made a great indicator in Market Cipher, and you can do a lot with it. Planned obsolescence is the devil. I feel like raising my own chickens and having free eggs every day. Raising chickens is not quite as easy as you might think it is. Although if you've got the room and the space and the time, not a bad idea. Jebb is the reason I watched. I'm glad Homeboy is back. I love my job, guys. I talk about it a lot. I love my job. And by the way, let's just go ahead and talk about some of the ideas I had. I already told you I have an idea of writing a book. And probably won't give you any details on that as to when or if I've started that. But what I will say is that I'm really excited for that idea. I've always wanted to be a published author, and so that's something I'm thinking about. Drop a 1 in chat if you'd be interested in reading a book to that effect. But I've also got some other ideas for content. Who's ever watched the Caspian Report? Give me a 2 in chat. Or, just videos that explain in a lot of detail, nitty-gritty detail, something, whatever it is, with quite a lot of editing prowess. And you end up seeing a channel like this produce a video every probably 2 weeks because there's a lot of research and work and script writing and editing and everything that goes into these kind of videos. I really like the idea of being able to do some of those really, really, really in-depth, timeless pieces of content. I've always wanted to do that, and I'm thinking about doing something to that effect towards the second half of this year. It wouldn't be right now, but it would be towards the back half of this year. I'm thinking about trying to start something like this because I would really, really love that. Queen said, I love audiobooks. Yes, if I did end up writing a book, I would definitely try and make it an audiobook. Tell me if you guys would like to hear me read an audiobook that I wrote to you. That'd be pretty cool, right? I mean, that'd be fun. I like audiobooks. Okay. Don't be scared. It is pretty easy. Okay, if you've done it before, don't let me tell you. I'm just referring to people that have raised chickens that it can be a bit of a headache if you got 10 little birds running around and they try and claw your eyes out when you try and go and feed them or get the eggs. All right. Let's read a couple pieces of news and then we'll wrap it out here. Core Scientific to hand over 27,000 rigs to pay $38 million in debt. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on this, but if you don't know, Core Scientific is going bankrupt. They owe a ton of money. I'm talking hundreds of millions of dollars worth of money. They don't have enough money to pay it back. So they're handing over most of their mining rigs to try and do that. It's kind of the meat and potatoes of that story. It's a pretty simple story. Not a lot to go over here. But the fact is, Core Scientific is belly up, and they're trying to figure all of that out. Now, the next piece of news that I want to go into is this one. And this is a very interesting development that we're going to talk about here. This is on Fox News, actually. It says, shoot it down. Montana GOP demand Biden take out suspected Chinese spy balloon hovering over U.S. for days. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on the article because I'm not really too interested in addressing this from a political standpoint of left versus right, because ultimately this is a national security concern, and this is something that everybody should be concerned about. Essentially, what's going on is that the Chinese have a spy balloon over Montana right now. If you're wondering why I said that Winnie the Pooh in a balloon, I was making a joke about how everybody calls President Xi Jinping Winnie the Pooh. There is a spy balloon that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I think it was, in China said was for meteorology, because that's always what a balloon is for. It's always for meteorology, right? It's never for, it's never aliens or anything. But they claimed that it was for that. And then another part of the Chinese government came out and said, yeah, that's for spy and reconnaissance purposes. So essentially, the reason that this is important is because there is a, how do I put this? Okay, so there's the nuclear triad. The United States has something called the nuclear triad. There are three different ways that the United States can deliver nuclear weapons exceptionally quickly. The number one way, the first way, and this is the original way, is by dropping them out of B-52 Stratofortress bombers. That is part of the nuclear triad. Those are nuclear-capable, long-range strategic bombers. You can fly over the country, drop a bomb, or nowadays you can drop a missile out of the cargo bay, out of the bomb bay, and then annihilate a city. The other way, which was developed towards the 50s, 60s, 70s, the other part of the nuclear triad are intercontinental ballistic missiles, normally Trident II or Minuteman II missiles launched out of a United States nuclear submarine. So that's the second component of what's known as the nuclear triad. The third component, and the one that is important here, is the intercontinental ballistic missile system in the United States. And the majority of the ICBMs that the United States holds are in Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, and South Dakota. Why? Because if you were to see a nuclear war, some of the nukes that Russia or China would be launching at the United States would be going straight for those ICBM silos, because if you knock out the enemy's nuclear missiles, then those nuclear missiles can't knock out your cities. So as much as the enemy would be sending, as far as the enemy being Russia or China, would be sending nuclear missiles against New York City, Los Angeles, wherever it is that you have a major metropolitan area, they would also be sending probably just as many nuclear missiles at the launch silos of America's silos. So most of the nuclear missile silos are out in the middle of nowhere in some dude's farm field in Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, and South Dakota. Billings comes to mind. Malmstrom Air Force Base comes to mind. In fact, that's the Air Force Base that this balloon is near. And what seems to be happening is that the Chinese are spying on our ICBM silos. Now, the thing is, there's actually a video I watched on this a while back. I don't remember who it was by, but if you look up the nuclear missile silos in the United States, I'm sure you'll find a video on YouTube. I might even be able to find it for you really quickly, where somebody went and actually interviewed and looked in these missile silos. U.S. missile silo video. Let me see if I can find the video I was talking about. It might have been from It's Not What You Think. That's where it was. If you guys have ever watched Not What You Think, go watch that. I'll just show you. It's this video right here, Guarding America's Nuclear Missile Fields. Go watch this video right here. You'll be very interested in it. And this is kind of the video. This is the kind of the type of video I'm talking about making. But if you go and watch that video, then essentially you're going to find out that these missile silos are not just silos, they're also missile bunkers. So that if you drop a nuclear missile on the nuclear missile, then the nuclear missile will be safe to fire off as nuclear missile. Capiche? Cool. China seems to be spying on the nearby Air Force base that is designed and placed there specifically to protect those missile bases in case there's some kind of commando raid on one to try and steal a missile. It's virtually impossible because there's a certain time delay to get in the missile silo itself. But you don't want the Chinese getting any more information about those missile silos than you can. And the very heavily politicized problem here is that the President Biden has decided not to shoot down this balloon because he's been told that the balloon falling out of the sky could potentially harm someone. Now, the interesting thing here is that this balloon is in the middle of nowhere. I mean, we're literally at the intersection. This balloon is over the intersection of nowhere and where am I, Montana. So it is strange that this balloon has not been shot down by F-22s already, because F-22s were scrambled to take a look at what this thing was doing over our nuclear missile, one of the 3 parts of our nuclear missile triad. It has not been shot down for some strange reason. I don't know. But this is definitely not helping with the tensions that are already rapidly rising between the United States military, the United States itself, and China, with China wanting to make a move on Taiwan. Now, China making a move on Taiwan would be suicidal because their plan is essentially to tell every single person with a gun to steal a fishing boat and to ride on that boat over to Taiwan and then get shot up in the water by the massive Taiwanese military for the size of their island. And for the United States Pacific Fleet to get involved and sink probably 90% of the troop transports before they even get to land, before they get annihilated by machine guns sitting on the beaches. This would be D-Day times 10. Like this would be a suicide mission for China, but Xi Jinping is just crazy enough and just isolated enough to potentially try it. And the United States realizes that if they launch an attack on Taiwan, Taiwan probably will fall unless the United States and Japan get involved. And so you would likely see a war in the South China Sea if they were to go that way. And it's interesting that they're trying to see what our nuclear missile capabilities are, because one of the big deterrents is that the United States is a nuclear state. So is China. You don't want a war over Taiwan because the United States probably would not fight that war as a proxy war. That would probably turn into a shooting war between the United States and China, and that spells the end of geopolitics if any of this already didn't. It could also spell nuclear Armageddon. I have a feeling that won't happen. I don't know why. I just have a gut feeling that even if we did go to war with China, people on both sides would be too scared to launch nukes at one another. But you still don't want an open hostility between 2 of the world's largest nuclear states. How does that impact Bitcoin? Well, if the world doesn't exist anymore, it impacts it pretty badly. If China invades Taiwan, then you see most of global chip manufacturing go offline. Trade in that entire part of the world disappears for a while. Good luck getting any trade out of Indonesia, getting any trade out of the Philippines, which are right next door. Obviously, any trade out of China or Taiwan. Good luck getting any trade out of South Korea or Japan. You bring offline 1/3 of the world's population for the sake of trading because the area has turned into a gigantic conflict zone, and you end up leveling one of the most advanced countries on the planet, which is Taiwan, under artillery fire, which would be launched from the mainland Chinese. So, keep a close eye on that conflict that is brewing. It would be wonderful if that didn't happen, but many people are believing that it will. In fact, even the Marines are preparing to recalibrate and restructure their entire force under, what is it called? Force Projection 2030, I think is what it's called, the plan by one of the top commandants of the United States Marines to prepare for war in the Pacific rather than insurgency conflicts in the Middle East. We're changing our era. This is a change in time. The zeitgeist of globalization has completely shifted, and many of us have not realized it. Nukes will be dropped by B-2s first, not B-52s. That is probably true, but the B-52s are part of that triad. All right, well, guys, if you enjoyed today's stream, here's a couple things you can do to support us. Make sure to go ahead and hit that like button. I really appreciate everybody who's tuned in, and thank you guys so much for all of your loyalty and support over the last 5.5 years that we've been running this channel. Thank you guys so much. And yeah, tell me, I'd really love to see if you guys would be interested in a book. I think I'd have a lot of fun writing that. I think I would. Anyway, you guys tell me where you think Bitcoin is going next. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and Matt Chandler, as soon as this is done, I'm going to call my, I figured out what it was. Like I said, I figured out what it was. I have to put the links in the description. I'm going to find those links. I'm going to try and tweet them. We do have an obstetrician appointment in half an hour, but I'm going to try and do that before we go. And figure out the CT2A problem. Thank you, Matt Chandler. You have been exceptionally patient, more patient than you should have needed to, because that's a product that you paid for. So that is completely on me. I do apologize for that. Anyway, we will get that sorted out. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Before I go, though, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.